IoT devices are really increasing rapidly. I think in the few years, probably we will have like tens of or some hundreds of different IoT devices everywhere, all connected. Many devices are starting to have built-in microphone really a lot because of speech recognition.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the audio platform category. I'm here with Yoonchang. He's the CEO of Cochl. Yoonchang, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
To give the audience a little bit more perspective about why we're having this interview, we've looked at well over almost 100 companies within the audio platform category as a whole, and you stuck out as a company within doing audio analytics specifically. And the work that you're doing in analyzing audio and the insights that you can pull from it is pretty interesting, and how you integrate into different tools and platforms. And we thought you were a really exciting tool and would love to dive in a little bit more in details about the things that you're building. Before we jump into that, we're going to quickly cut to the video that has a great introduction of Cochl, and then we'll go from there. Sounds good?
Okay, it's good.
Awesome. Great video, by the way. Before I even jump into the questions on how you're actually analyzing audio, I just want to maybe ask, is there a backstory behind Cochl?
Yeah, sure. Our company was founded in the university laboratory. We have 6 co-founders, and I met all of my co-founders in the Seoul National University Music and Audio Research Group. While I was doing PhD, I was doing research together with my co-founders. And basically our major was music information retrieval. And obviously music is very complex and complicated signal. And that's why when we see when music signals are possible to really analyze in details, we thought it can be applied to any other kinds of sounds as well. That's like motivation behind the foundation of our company. Yeah.
It's interesting that you put the music focus, but it makes sense how it could expand it outwards. Mm-hmm. Looking at your platform and even seeing the video earlier, It seems like you have 2 major focuses. It's being able to provide audio analytics, either for companies that just want to analyze sound, or just giving machines their own ability to make sense of the world around them through audio, which is quite unique. And even on your website, you talk about the different applications of analyzing sound and what some of those could be. Did you want to share or talk a little bit more in detail about some of the applications of analyzing sound? What kind of sound? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, sure. Basically, because we are really focusing on making a system that can really understand any kinds of sound. Of course, application can be very different depending on the industry, and there is really a limitless number of applications for using it. But especially, we have 4 different services at the moment, which is like emergency detection and human interaction, human status, and home context. And we released emergency detection first because even this kind of machine listening or sound AI, if you like, this technology is new. But still, there are some existing market or existing technology that is used for more monitoring the security and the emergency purpose, like glass breaking and screaming sound. Of course, the market was very small because of existing technology used to have more false alarms, which might cause some inconvenience for users. But that's why we are tackling the emergency detection, for example, glass breaking, screaming, siren, or CO alarm, fire alarm, these kind of things first. And also, this is kind of most direct and this kind of easy use case. And also, that's why we wanted to extend to show more like potential of our technology. So we prepared like human interaction. Like human interaction is like clapping, finger snap, or whistling. This kind of how to use sound to control the IoT devices. And human status is more about obviously status of human laughing, coughing, sneezing, snoring, this kind of sound. And also finally, home context is more about what's going on an in-home environment like dog barking or baby crying or water running sounds. So basically, we are keep continuing releasing more and more products. And these four services is our first approach to show our potential of our technology. And I think this one important technology because normally these days, most of monitoring, security, surveillance field, many things are really much focused on the computer vision field. And of course, we think visual information is important too. But still, there are not many people really focusing concern about the audio related things so far because of course we cannot see the audio and many people think there is not much information in it, but like for example like human really use auditory information in daily life every day too naturally, so people really even not thinking about that, and we are making decisions. So we wanted to emphasize the audio has really lots of information in it.
Interesting. No, it's one of those things you don't really quite think about, but audio or hearing is one of the senses that you have as an individual, and one just almost just as important as vision. And it is interesting to see that it hasn't really vision, computer vision is taken off like you talked about, but audio not so much. But recently it's changing. I'm just curious, what's driving the need recently for audio analytics? Is this just boom in IoT devices? Is that the primary driver?
I think there are really lots of changes in the industry as well. And before, probably for us, we cannot really control whole industry, but we can actually see these days importance of audio is really many people start to understand, and many platforms are really using audio a lot. And I was thinking probably people really realize the power of audio was a more speech recognition field was first one. So like from touch screen interfaces, everyone is now used to use touch screen interfaces, but now many people are using speech recognition to control the devices. And also like, for example, like smart speakers. And at the beginning of smart speakers, and many people were thinking, oh, anyways, smart speaker also needs screen in the future, and they're not putting there for the price purpose or something. But it seems people are more people think that it's more natural way to communicate with IoT devices using voice control. That was kind of, I think it was kind of trigger, which is positive for us as well. And also these days, many people using earbuds, like Bluetooth earbuds, really a lot too. And before it was more for the only music listening only, but now people are more making a phone call or also have some social network based on audio platform as well. So there are many across the industry. There are many people start to feel that audio is kind of really important sensory of human, I think.
Interesting. No, it makes sense, especially seeing the rise in the examples that you mentioned with the headphones, the smart speakers, and Amazon Alexa now. And, it's really interesting to see how audio now is just really is growing in a lot of different areas today. I want to take a step back a little bit. You talked about some of the applications that you had, which is pretty cool. Emergency detection makes sense. And now you have human interaction, and you have human status, and home context. Those are pretty unique. You talked about earlier, background of the company, it spun out of the university. I mean, how do you build out this functionality? Where does this data come from to build up this knowledge set, to know that you're making different types of sounds mean different?
Yeah, basically, of course, we are fully like our characteristic of our company. Really important thing is we are really fully based on the deep learning technology, machine learning technology. We are really highly data driven too, and we are not really depending on some rule based engineering. So we're trying to make computer to decide everything. So that's kind of one of the interesting point of our company. And for example, we really collect the data from various kind of sources. Of course, when we are in the laboratory for writing a paper, of course, algorithm itself is important, but also at the same time, we always put a lot of like limitations for the like data collection or more doing experiment in the laboratory environment. For the making something that works in actual real world environment, it's really important to make every data collected from the real world. So we obviously collect the data by ourselves as well, and we do our own recordings a lot, really. And also we use some of crowdsourcing platforms to get that. And also internally, we like, for example, even there is no some ground truth like answers for the audio data, we also use more like unsupervised way to improve our training deep learning model as well. It's really like we use all knowledge we can use for making this deep learning model more stronger and then more accurate. So basically that's kind of how we are making. And also like data collection is really just a first step of making a system. Because all of our co-founders are all the machine learning audio researchers in the field, we build our own algorithm and we do lots of tests. And for example, we really emphasize on making our system to be working on various environment and various microphone, which is really difficult. Actually, it's really difficult things. And because if we want to make a system that detects, for example, some screaming sound in certain microphone in certain environment, probably it's kind of not that difficult problem. But we're trying to use a lot of different technology and techniques for solving this problem. It can really support many different kinds of audio quality. So we trying to make it work in any, even not very good audio quality, still can achieve the high accuracy is kind of our research goal of our system. Yeah.
It's really interesting. No, it seems as though audio is such a complicated, I feel like it's a lot more complicated than looking at an image. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but for the same reasons that you mentioned, it depends on the environment, it depends on the volume, it depends on the type of speaker, and so on. So I can only imagine that technologically, just to identify one or certain type of noise. How many different noises can your platform identify?
Currently, the released product Cochl Sense, through 4 different services, we are supporting 25 different sounds at the moment. And of course, yeah, officially it's 25. Internally, we support more than 100 different sounds at the moment, but we will keep like releasing one by one. We need to evaluate more to be sure that it is working well in the industry. So we are keep increasing number of the supported sound at the moment.
I'm just curious, do you have to build out context behind noises sometimes? Or, more details? There's the noise itself, and you could say maybe it's a scream, but is there, do you go as far as to understand a little bit more about, there might be more context behind the scream and what that could actually mean?
Actually, for now, I think it's really good question, because for the audio signal, context is really important, and our goal also really understanding what's going on, and that kinds of information is really important. But for now, it is more like we cannot really know. It's more like identified result can be like ingredient for the understanding the context. I think in this way it's more clear. And like, for example, now we are more providing the actual result. Like, for example, if someone is like taking shower, then there is like water running sound, this kind of thing. But why we think it can be used as a context is because, for example, when assume that we are monitoring some fall down sound from the elderly care system, then sometimes like fall down sound might be more obviously like evidence of some emergency situation if there was some water sound or some bathroom using sound, that kinds of things, because it's likely there is some slippery surface inside of the bathroom. So I think such sounds can be used for understanding the context in a larger view. So yeah, that's how it works. And especially I think this kind of idea can be really what it makes for us for more next generation technologies, because previously it was more simple trigger and action. So for example, glass breaking, call the security. So this one was like more older style, and more and more we are increasing the number of supported sound. So that's why it's important to increase the number of supported sound. Then we can understand context more deeper and in detail, I think.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I think it's two feats that you're trying to accomplish. One, gathering enough data and being confident whatever sound that is created, that you can identify what that actually is, and then from that start to parse the specific downs into different types of contexts. But I can only imagine how difficult it is just to identify confidently a sound by itself.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes sense, because as you see in the future, you understand a machine is running, for example, but then you could understand, depending on the sound, how it alters if the machine is breaking or overperforming or underperforming, etc. That could turn the volume output. So it sky's the limit based on what you can start with and grow from there. But having the platform beneath that can identify the noise to start is probably the hardest point to start with in the first place. And that's incredible that this is where you're starting in that trajectory where you can build outwards into. I want to get into and just highlight how you actually deploy your platform. Now, you said you can work with edge devices with no internet connection.
Yeah.
Can you explain more on this?
Oh, yeah, sure. So basically, we at the beginning of our company, we only supported cloud API only, and because we thought it's more flexible, and of course it's more flexible, and many platforms are using cloud-based one. But we found out that actually in the many environments, some of the companies really want to use more on-device Edge SDK as well. So that's why we can deploy onto the many embedded devices too. So there are two choices. Cloud API, you just send the audio data, you get the analyzed result. And another one, Edge SDK, you just install locally, and audio data doesn't leave the device, and all the computation is happening on the device. And also to support this kind of edge devices, most important thing is we need to make our deep learning model very small size and battery efficient, power efficient, and use all the acceleration from the like embedded chips, DSP chips, or some GPU and TPU stuff as well. So I think there are I think recently there are many companies doing only this kind of like model downsizing things. We do everything in-house, so we really can check what kind of target sound is really affected by model downsizing. So we trying to make this accuracy drop small as possible, and so that's why we can really provide into two different ways, API and SDK. We can really cover any kinds of stuff, any kinds of devices or environment, and I think we are in the good timing, I think, because of course. I think you read many like different articles about like there are many companies start to support some neural network acceleration chips on their AP, these kind of things, and hardware is changing really a lot fast as well, and it's now getting more and more mature. So from last year, I think many hardware devices and their software support also become more and more mature. I think we are somewhere in the middle of very good timing to apply neural network algorithm on the embedded devices.
Really interesting. Yeah, it definitely seems like on the hardware side, there's going to be a bigger shift in it, especially having your platform that could perform and analyze sounds on the end devices, especially with some of these new chips coming out. It'll be really interesting, especially as you grow out your knowledge base and the noises that you can detect.
Mm.
We talked a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to clarify on this point at the moment. Your platform currently recognizes specific sounds. How does your customers build out functionality from that? Do they use the output of your platform and then they decide what action should be taken? Or do you guys get involved in that process of what action should be taken, depending on the scenario?
So basically, our system itself just return the analyzed result. So it's more simple, just a tag with a text like dog barking, baby crying, this kind of things. But obviously, we are more B2B business. We are doing B2B business. And when we engage with some other industry, normally it's really important to understand the company and the services too. We really trying hard to have more conversation because, for example, more conventional way would be we are making like, for example, certain emergency detection solution and we just provide and pricing is more common way. But more machine learning based solutions, we sometimes they might have some specific sounds or very special environment, this kind of things. We also need to support them by more having discussions. So it's not only we are working with engineers, we really have to talk with the domain knowledge, domain expert who have a lot of knowledge in their environment, for example, who work in some factory for more than like 20 years. Their like comments about the sound, what's happening in the factory, this kind of thing also important. And also, for example, if we are working with automotive environment, we are specialized in audio signal processing, but we really don't have idea about what's going on inside of the car. So that's why we are trying to have more conversation with domain experts and user experience designer to really understand. And we also really I think that always makes really good result based on this kind of conversation. We also give some opinion about the service design, and they also ask us whether this kind of scenario will work or not. In summary, our system itself is only giving the results only, but our team is working together for build up the scenario from the scratch.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems like you have a lot of flexibility in how you support. And I think one of the unique aspects as well is you give your customers a lot of flexibility about what they can do with your platform as well. It's interesting. I want to switch gears now away a little bit from the product and kind of talk a little bit more general market questions. But the first question I had is I'm just curious because the space is relatively, I would say, still new. There's not that many companies like you. Pretty unique.
Yeah, it's true.
What is the business model in this industry? I think you talked about how you charge per analysis unit. So I hope maybe for the audience, maybe if you could give some perspective on how you interact with your customers.
Yeah, basically, I think like on our website, only one thing written down there is pay as you go style. Pay per 15 seconds is our policy, and we are really trying many different styles because obviously like image processing is much straightforward. Like they can charge per image. And also there are some kind of standard price for the like large IT companies. And for audio, there is speech recognition APIs, and most of them are based on pay-as-you-go style model. But the thing is, environmental sounds detection, that kinds of thing might be used for monitoring purpose, and they need to use for 24 hours, which is a little bit different from the speech recognition. So it cannot be that expensive. So we are really trying many different things, but basic pricing model is pay as you go. But normally when we work with other companies, we found out that per device per year license works much better. So they don't have to really worry about how much audios are used or monitoring 24 hours. So currently for our API is pay as you go, and for B2B it is per device per year.
We talked about it a little bit earlier about how audio is becoming a lot more prominent in our life.
Yeah.
it seems like there are lots of new smart devices and the expectations of these devices are getting higher and higher. How do you think audio is fitting into the future of these smart devices or just devices in general?
Personally, I think this part is really important for us because even if we think not many things are changing, but actually really many things are changing around us every year. And for example, just think about smart home. Now, smart speaker is really many people have it in their home. But I think still IoT devices are really increasing rapidly. And for example, if for example we have 4 or 5 IoT devices connected to my smartphone, I think in the few years probably we will have like tens of or some hundreds of different IoT devices everywhere, all connected. Then it will be really difficult to control one by one by turn on this one, turn off that one, everything by touch screen and or by some speech recognition. It will be really difficult. That's why I think that's why we will need context aware system for really control everything naturally, just like human. I think that will be kind of changing environment for us. And also, I think many devices are starting to have built-in microphone really a lot because of speech recognition. So for us, it's really good infrastructure. So we will have more microphone. We don't have to install everywhere. It's already there. Everyone is bringing smartphone. Every IoT device is having microphone. So there will be microphone networks really can cover whole home environment too. So it will be much better environment for us to really see what's going on, covering the whole home environment. It will be really interesting to see such things too. And yeah, I think that's the basic thing. And also another big movement changing in the industry is earbuds too. So there are many people, for example, using AirPods and they're just wearing for a whole day and then they just forget they're wearing it. And I think it also really changes lifestyle of people really a lot because it's all connected by audio and it's really changing how people communicate with other people too. And just last point, of course, like VR and AR part also it takes time for really using this kind of devices, but we hope it can be really helpful for more hearing impaired people to use our technology for using on the top of AR devices so they can really actually read and see the audio information, what's going on around them. So I think that kinds of thing will be really interesting to see from the viewpoint of future devices.
Wow. No, it's really interesting how you see that ecosystem and how things will play out. I'm curious, I'm not 100% sure if it has affected you at all, but has the pandemic affected your industry or affected your company in any way?
I thought we are not affected at the beginning, but obviously we have some influence from the pandemic too. For example, of course, we are not really directly affected by the COVID-19 because of course we do like remote work more naturally. We only need some laptops at home, so it's fine. We don't have to meet many people. We only need computers, obviously. But still, when we work with more large companies, many things are really, every projects are delayed and then delayed responses. And that kinds of things somehow more delayed all the kinds of like discussions and projects. So we had influence from the pandemic. But of course, I think compared to other industry, we are much less affected by the COVID, I think.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem like you'd be a category, an industry that really would be affected too much, but I could obviously see how things could get backed up. I have one last question, and you've already answered it in my previous question, but I was just curious, where do you think the future of audio analytics is going, and what do you see that most people don't?
I think like this question is thing. I really think about this question a lot from while I was pursuing my PhD too. And like, for example, I was doing music information retrieval, music informatics only. And why I expand this goal to more general, any kinds of sound is because future of music information retrieval will be expanded to more environmental sound detection, because anyway, the goal is to really making a system that can understand any kinds of thing. I think really now many audio analytics are really separated into different topics. Like speech recognition is really huge topics. There are so many companies working for speech recognition. And also there are some researchers and companies working on music information retrieval, like genre, mood, key, tempo, or some jazz sound. This kind of it's all important and it's all difficult, but still very important. And we are now more emphasizing on environmental sound detection because it used to be not there, not available. So we are more emphasizing like baby crying, dog barking. But fundamentally, we don't see these all different areas as a different research topic, because so it's all connected. And anyway, human just listen to the audio and then we just understand as it is. So we don't have to really separate speech, music, some environmental sound, and every different kinds of thing. It's our company's vision as well. We are not only like detecting emergency sound. We really have to, like, for example, if music was played beside of the device, then this device should understand this is music is playing now, music activity, and understand the mood or genre, key, tempo, this kind of more high level information. And if someone is talking behind some, and it also device can understand the language itself. So speech recognition should be under the umbrella of this machine listening. And also other kinds of environmental sounds or acoustic scenes too, like for example, like bus, underground, or some library, park. These kind of things also human naturally understand by listening to the sound. So in summary, I think all speech recognition, music analytics, and environmental sound, there will be no boundaries between these topics, but it will be researched under the one umbrella, and so that there will be a system really can at least mimic the human listening ability or auditory functionality. So I think it will evolve in that way. And yeah, it's really, really interesting goal for us. Yeah.
No, it's super interesting, ambitious, but it makes sense. Audio is and how it can overlap with so many different types of applications, and whether it's music or not music, or some of the applications you're currently working on, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like there is almost limitless potential of what you can do with any type of sound and insights you can pull from that. And it definitely seems like we're at the crux of seeing that explosion of utilizing audio in ways that in unique ways. Well, with that, Yoonchang, thank you so much for doing this. Before I close out, did you have any other things that you wanted to ask or mention or share with the audience?
I think first of all, thank you very much for giving us opportunity for like this interview. And I think recently I'm really interested to see how many people are start to understand the importance of audio and this industry. And I think there will be lots of changing in the industry too. And for example, I just wanted to mention one thing, like for example, when we use speech recognition, we use wake up words like Siri or this kind of Hey Google. And I think this kind of wake up word based framework will be really changing quickly to more always on, always listening mode. And I think that will make the beginning of more context aware listening, machine listening technologies used everywhere. It will be really beginning of it. And another thing I wanted to mention is also, I think privacy also what we didn't cover in this conversation. So I think these days many people really concerned about privacy, and obviously audio also really important for privacy. So I think there we also need to think about how really people will not really feel uncomfortable by this kind of audio analysis running on, but it can be purely helpful for the user themselves. So I think it will be really important topic to think about, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an interesting field because there's a lot that you can do, but that at the same time, it's this weird combination of where how much audio is good audio, or if you do capture all audio, how do we make sure it's secure? And those are going to be the many challenges that you're probably already facing and going to run into in the future. But Yoonchang, thanks again for having this conversation with me and sharing more about Cochl. It was impressive what you guys have accomplished. And again, for context for the audience, we looked at well over, like I said before, almost 100 companies in the audio platform category. And you're one of the few that's really embracing audio analytics and seeing what applications you can build from that. And you have a handful of really cool applications that you're building out of what you can identify from sound. And we even heard now there's so much complexity that goes into that, not only the sound itself, but where it comes from, its volume, the device that it's used to, listen to the sound. I could only imagine what you go through. You've done an incredible job, and you have not only an incredible lineup of audio or products in the mix that are commercial today, but you have hundreds coming up in the future. And the opportunity is limitless as you're catching that growth for the audio space. And so I think it's really exciting. Again, super happy you took the time to do this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.